Radical Radio Collective.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show. And we're taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, start of the month airwaves. My name is Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
My name is Zack. My pronouns are he, they.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city Mangajin on Turrbal Yagara Yugapa land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Jinabara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south, we reach the Commonwealth, Nigara Gwal, Munjali, Wandjarabara, and Yugambeh countries. There is no Crown land, and we know that because Eddie Kyoki Mabo extinguished that in his High Court cases, and we celebrate that, or we commemorate that. Yesterday was Mabo Day.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go.
There, the overturning of terra nullius, which was the legal fiction that justified the dispossession of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And even during the court cases, they would change the laws so that he couldn't continue with the court case. He did. He stuck to his guns, and we thank him for that, for overturning that obvious injustice. So today, thank you to No Idea for all the ideas. I'm really excited because Peter, the wonderful friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, does a lot of shark stories.
Yeah.
And I'm always intrigued because I didn't know that we could learn much more about sharks after, 20 years or so of Shark Week taking over the airwaves. But we still can. There's still a lot more to learn.
Yeah, sharks are cool.
Well, except for you don't like things in the ocean.
I'm okay. Sharks get the pass.
Sharks get the pass.
Yeah, sharks are cool.
Okay.
There's also some sharks that can live exclusively in fresh water. I think there's only about 3 species, though.
Oh.
And they all come from the same genus.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where I chose my gamer tag from. So my gamer tag is Glyphus, but I added another S, and I got that from the Glyphus genus of sharks.
Right.
There's 2 in Australia and 1 in India. A spear-toothed shark is found in the Northern Territory and Northern Queensland, and then you've got the Glyphus shark, which is found more so in the northwest coast of Western Australia, and then Glyphus gangeticus, which is found in the Ganges River.
That's a fun word to say, gangeticus.
Yeah, that was a cool. That's a very good scientific name for it.
That should be your gamer tag, gangeticus.
It just makes me think of like gangrene.
Oh, it makes me think of Gadiga.
Oh yeah, the movie.
Yeah. Anyways, that's enough rambling. We're going to pay respect to Mabo Day by playing Yothi Yindi, but before we do that, we're going to let you know what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking to Nina Gbor, the Director of the Circular Economy and Waste Program for the Australia Institute, and the founder of Ecostyles, a sustainable fashion education program. So we'll be asking Nina about why has there been no national soft plastic recycling program after the Red Cycle collapse in 2022. That's what we're going to be talking about. And stay tuned for all of that. On the line now, we have Nina Gbor. Nina is the Director of the Circular Economy and Waste Program for the Australia Institute and the founder of Ecostyles as a sustainable fashion educator. Nina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah. So, Nina, you've recently written a piece for the Australian Institute about soft plastic recycling. We used to have Red Cycle for that. I was wondering if you could explain what happened to soft plastic recycling and why hasn't it come back yet?
So, as you mentioned, we had Red Cycle that ran from about 2011 to 2022, and unfortunately it collapsed, leaving behind about 11,000 tons of soft plastics in 44 locations across the country. And, it had a host of issues from, the pandemic was one. There were supply chain issues as well, and things like insufficient product demand. So that was, since then, it's been difficult to get together a soft plastics recycling scheme that would be sufficient for the entire nation, because we're using around 70 billion pieces of soft plastics every year, which is a lot. My views on that, even when Red Cycle was in operation, was that it was too small an operation to manage the nation's, soft plastics situation. I felt like we should have been looking at, reducing soft plastics whilst we had Red Cycle, but also looking at other solutions as well.
Yeah, so Red Cycle was trying to recycle the soft plastics. Some of it was shipped over to China, though. And some was made into or used as an asphalt substitute. What are the options for soft plastic recycling?
Well, I think you just mentioned them. Options, you mean in terms of products that can be created?
Yeah, why isn't it if we have such an abundance of soft plastics, why can't they be turned into more usable products?
Yeah, so it could be. You can use soft plastics and recycle them into anything from playground equipment, gym equipment, not everything, but all the way through to pot plants, coasters. There's lots of different products you can make of it, but I think the issue was more about demand for those products. Right? There was low demand for them. And some of them have issues like, when you make park benches out of it, which looks amazing initially, I think when they stay in the sun for a period of time, they begin to crack and become unusable. So that's why I don't think it's an all net solution, recycling soft plastics endlessly. I don't think there's just enough demand for it, while simultaneously also bringing virgin plastics into the product market, if you see what I mean. So, there's a lot to consider there, and I just don't think it's a viable all-round solution. Yeah,
you wrote that the use of virgin plastics is just cheaper for manufacturers. And that's one of the reasons why there is no large-scale soft plastic recycling viable options.
Yeah, it is cheaper. So, there's things that the government, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of your questions, but there are things that the government can do to subsidize recycled plastics to make it more reusable. There's more scope for funding startups who have, more innovative ways for reusing soft plastics, not just rely on one small business, such as we did with Red Cycle, to solve all of our soft plastics problem. But I think most importantly, we should be reducing our soft plastics use, because let's not forget, soft plastics come from fossil fuels.
Yep.
So that's emissions. The way that fossil fuels are obtained is not even good for the environment. We have a lot of ocean spills and land spills. So there's a lot of pollutions with sourcing fossil fuels as well. And most importantly, and this baffles me that this isn't part of the environmental conversation about the impact of plastics on human health, right? We know that there's a lot of toxic chemicals in soft plastics. There's PFAS is one of them, but it leads to, a host of issues from, cardiovascular diseases, carcinogens, infertility in both male and female is a big one. I read somewhere that, now this is not verified, but I did read it in an article that said that, young male children, sort of like 3 years old and younger, have a high likelihood for infertility when they get older because of plastics in clothing and in everything else. Yeah, plastics in our food and using plastic packaging. So this is a bigger problem than I think we're actually addressing. We're only addressing it on the environmental side, but then we don't have to wait till it becomes an ultimate crisis before we realize that it's poisoning us slowly
Yeah.
but surely.
I think we're addressing it at the end of the cycle, right? So you work as a circular economy researcher, and when we talk about plastics, we're normally talking about what do we do after we've used them, straws and plastic bags. But so the onus is then put on to us as the consumer. Why aren't they, like supermarkets and manufacturers, using their considerable profits to lower the use of plastics at the start of the cycle?
That's such a good question. There's so much onus always put on the consumer as opposed to the manufacturers of plastic, right? And I think we need to turn that back around and put it on the manufacturers and importers of plastic. Because when you think about it, there's not much you and I as consumers can do. We need food.
Yep.
We go to the supermarket to buy our food. Majority of it comes in plastic. Yes, there are advocacy groups we can advocate, but we don't have enough people advocating for that shift to happen. And, we're in an era where the government is repealing a lot of the environmental laws. So I think collectively we should just stop just asking what can I do and feeling guilt for something you have absolutely no control over as an individual. And collectively we should say put it to our super who have billions of dollars, right, and corporations who produce and import plastics and manufacture plastics to change the system. So, we in our research we recommend several things like EPR schemes, extended producer responsibility schemes. We talk about taxing on plastic packaging, which could raise nearly $1.5 billion every year.
Yeah, something like a carbon tax for plastics.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to that, looking at alternative solutions for using materials that are non-toxic and compostable potentially, to remove the health risk element of the problem. And, that still leaves the single-use situation where we have to say, okay, so whatever materials that we're using, can it be reusable? And then create a system for reusing it, right? So, like, for example, how we have soft plastics now, and everybody in their house has a pile of soft plastic sitting there that they intend to reuse. So, again, it goes back to, do we want to resolve the solution holistically, or are we just going to resolve one, take baby steps and celebrate it as if we've resolved the plastic crisis, which I don't think is a good way to look at it, a holistic way to look at it. And definitely not good we're not looking after the earth, and we're not looking after future generations if we're not thinking holistically.
Yeah. Well, you and Lilia Anderson wrote a report about plastic waste and recycling greenwashing. The report delves into the human health and environmental impacts of recycled plastics. And in that report, you quote Break Free from Plastic that said we cannot recycle our way out of a plastic problem.
Absolutely.
Is there some recycling that is good? I don't want to think that all the recycling that I do or that we do, that there's no point to it.
Oh, sorry. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying recycling is bad. I'm not demonizing recycling. Recycling is good. Definitely has a lot of uses. It's the notion of endlessly recycling and seeing recycling as the solution. Which means, we have to keep feeding the beast. If we build a system based on recycling plastics and we're not looking at reducing plastics, i.e. fossil fuels, then that's not, we haven't found a solution, because of all these other issues that I mentioned, right? Recycling can be one thing, but it should work in tandem with drastically reducing the amount of plastics we use whilst, we're recycling what is available. And then also finding alternative packaging, right? That is, as I mentioned, non-toxic, potentially compostable, and reusable, and a system around that new material where we're reusing those materials, that packaging, and not sending it to landfill.
Well, it seems like we already had some of those systems. The old glass milk bottle milkman
We did.
rounds, stuff
did.
like that.
Yeah.
So, it seems like that we're moving away from that. But what advice do you have for me so that I can understand when a company is using greenwashing tactics? Because they'll put things on labels saying this was made from 90% recyclable or recycled plastic, or this is recyclable. When are they greenwashing, and when are they actually telling the truth about recycling?
So if they are genuinely using 98% recycled plastic, is better than virgin plastic, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you as an individual, you have to decide whether the health implications of using plastic for yourself and your family are important to you. And that's when you can advocate either through that particular company or in general or with the ACCC or with your local and federal representatives about your concerns about plastic use, even endless recycling.
Mm-hmm.
Because another issue with recycling is microplastics, right? So whether it's production or during the process of recycling, microplastics get shed into the atmosphere, and that ends up in loading on land, loading in water, and of course in the air that we breathe.
Yeah.
So, there's just issues associated all around. With regards to greenwashing with companies, though, with products that you purchase, it's a case of looking at what they say on their website or on the product itself. How do you find out if what they're saying is true about recycled plastic? There's the APCO, Australian Packaging Convention. They should have standards. I'm not sure if they do, but they should have standards for finding out companies that are greenwashing or telling the truth. But
Okay.
I think ultimately recycled plastic, again, is far better than virgin plastic because, less fossil fuels, the better, right?
Yeah. Do you have a particular example of egregious greenwashing that you've come across?
Well, there's plastic in clothing that I'm particularly familiar with, and these are when clothing brands that produce 600,000 styles a day or add 10,000 new products to their companies, which majority of it is made of plastic, polyester, and talk about, and maybe only less than 1% of their products are made from recycled plastic. And through their advertising, they make it sound like they're sustainable because they're using recycled materials. But still, not more than 99% of their entire stock is made from virgin plastic. So those are, sort of common pitfalls with, not just with clothing, but with other companies as well.
Yeah.
So you think, well, if you can use recycled plastic in one of your lines, or, why are you separating it and calling it your green line or eco line or whatever you call it, whatever buzzword they're using?
Yeah.
They may as well do it with all of their products. Right?
Yeah. I mean, people are, trying to give away plastic. You would have thought that material would have been easily accessible, but... Yeah,
because if you think, a lot of corporations make it sound like these are very difficult changes to make. And you think, well, if you're a multi-billion dollar corporation, you have access, you can easily hire, boost up your research and development departments. You can easily have access to see what innovators across the world are doing when it comes to environmental solutions with products and packaging. They have no excuse, right? There is no excuse. I mean, if you think about when we had the pandemic, in 2020, we had to adapt and change overnight. It was almost instant, We don't always have to wait till there's a crisis before we make changes. We can do it, particularly when the funding is there. So I don't buy it when corporations say, it's not that easy, we're trying, we have a 5-year strategy to change. I just don't buy it, because I know of so many startups here in Australia that have created solutions, and these are very small businesses, sometimes even sole traders.
Yeah.
Right. And they innovate with some, plastic-free packaging. Some of it even looks like plastic. Some of it is entirely different systems. And there are a lot of these solutions out there. All these corporations have to do is partner with these smaller innovators, these small businesses, or or pay for their products, their packaging. It's that simple. But they choose not to do it. And we have to ask ourselves why, and we have to stop falling for their lies about, how it's so difficult and it takes so long. I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
If the government, were stronger with environmental laws and passed a law tomorrow that they must do it, they would scramble and do it, get it done.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The plastic tax, I think, is a workable solution. Thank you so much, Nina, for joining us. Can you tell our audience where they can find out more about your work?
Well, you can visit the Australia Institute. If you go on the website and you want to learn more about plastic, you just put plastic in the search engine. But there's a lot more that the Australia Institute does around the climate crisis, public and social policy. If you want to know about some of my work as well, my platform is called Ecostyles, 2 words. I have a website. I'm on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, or send me a message. Either way.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much, Nina. I wasn't able to find your request songs, but I've picked a Pete Seeger song called Garbage. This is from 1974. Thanks very much, Nina.
I look forward to hearing it. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye.
Your weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ is now available as a podcast.
I learned that you can hear the difference between different water temperatures when they're poured. I'm going to pour one after the other into a different glass, and you have to tell me which one is which temperature. I've got a hot and a cold. Right, here's the first one. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm saying cold.
It sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Here's the second one. Well played.
Shut up.
Search No Idea 4ZZZ on your favourite podcasting app. That's spelled KNOW, like no idea. It's a visual pun on an audio platform. I don't know why we did it.
We just heard then from the Holy Roller Coasters with Down and Dirty, and before that was Pete Seeger with his 1974 classic Garbage. We were just talking about garbage with Nina Gbor. She's the Director of Circular Economy and Waste Program for the Australia Institute, also does Ecostyles as an educator. It was really interesting about having a tax on plastic like the carbon tax was for fossil fuels, or for CO2. But how, when we do make changes, like America did with the banning of straws, it then becomes a culture war issue, and it's they're taking away our freedom to, become infertile with microplastics or whatever. How destructive it all just seems when it seems like it would only be a net good to stop using plastics as much as we do.
I think there was an interesting point I read recently somewhere that probably plastic have saved more lives than ended at this point. Not to suggest that.
You mean with medical stuff? Yeah.
Sterile related things. So I think that would be one area that you'd want to sort out first before deciding to transition to a completely plastic-free economy.
Yeah, but we can't even get rid of plastic bags or plastic straws. So
yeah,
I think medical instruments might be a ways off.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't do nothing. Yeah. But yeah, that would be like the final step in completely removing plastic from certain parts of our economy is medicinal related things.
Yeah, but the idea that virgin plastics is still cheaper than recycled plastics is because we're just stockpiling all of this plastic that could be used as a material, and we're going, no, let's just add to it instead.
Yeah,
it's infuriating.
I think as well, since plastics are derived from fossil fuels are a finite resource. We are going to have to sort this out one way or another at some point, because I think plastics haven't even realistically been around that long, and we're already at the point
addicted to them.
And we've acknowledged the fact that we have to remove away from them. There's certain economies like China, I believe, which is a really large producer of plastics. They're trying to diversify away from that and look at alternatives
Yeah, right.
to plastic refinery.
Yeah, well, there are things that can be recycled continuously, like glass and aluminium, that might be better options for things. But I don't know. Even with aluminium, you'll still have like wrappers on cans that are still plastic, and so it's like,
what's the point?
How do we just stop this plastic addiction? Yeah, well, that was a really interesting conversation we had with Nina, and if you like what we do here on Eco Radio or on 4ZZZ in general, you can become a subscriber to the wonderful 4ZZZ family, and all you have to do is head to 4zzz.org.au/support and sign up for as little as $25 for pets or under 18s, which are the same thing. Pets and under 18s, same thing. Or a full subscription, $80. If you're a big fan of us, you could do Passionate for $140. This month, every month now, we give away a prize to a lucky subscriber. This month it is the Garage Sounds record store $200 gift certificate, which is pretty fantastic.
It is.
Garage Sounds is a Brisbane record store and 4ZZZ subscriber discount outlet. So even if you do win the $200 gift certificate, you might be able to get 10% off that.
$220.
As well. Yeah.
Do you think? Sorry, going back to our discussion on plastics. Do you think the microplastics in our brains are sort of becoming like, like the cordyceps fungus?
Yeah,
maybe they're increasing our desire to consume more and more plastics.
Yeah,
I love.
We've become a hive mind of plastic.
I love plastic, Dave. Statistically, microplastics my favorite thing to eat.
I bet you there is a podcast out there that does plastics are actually good for us, and we should have more of them in our system.
Yeah,
just happens to be
big plastic. Yeah,
big plastic everywhere, I guess. And that's enough of our ramblings. Let's go to Wavy Beach. Long-time Eco Radio legend Wavy Beach has sent us in a new segment about Sermon from the Mount. There's Tambourine. And let's go to that and see what Wavy has to say about the state of the world at the moment. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio, and this is Wavy Beach.
Welcome, 4ZZZ Eco Radio listeners, for the first episode of A Sermon from the Side of the Mount with Wave. Thank you. The planet is fine. We're not saving the planet. No one needs to save the planet. It's the apex species that is in trouble, and all that we will take with it in our wake. Which means that water, which is what all of us, every life, every carbon-based form on the planet needs to survive, is the focus of what we are saving, so that we don't poison it, particularly with fracking. So the gas fight, which is largely based on mines and fracking, to campaign in the country areas to appeal to farmers, to connect with farmers and form the natural alliance of farmers and greenie types. I don't know about parties, but anyway, people is around water tables, because we need water to survive, as everybody knows, and we need water to grow plants, to grow animals, to grow. We need water to grow. Water and sunlight. Sunlight will keep shining when the clouds part, of course, which is why we need the carbon out of the atmosphere, so there's not so much rain falling. Anyway, so that's it basically. Cheers. Have fun with it. Get together and talk and connect in all manner of choirs that you can find. Walks of life, the works and the jerks and the clods and the blodhoffers and all of us fine sucker-upperers of information and connection and lovingness, expelling thy fear. 4ZZZ, plenty of warm inner glow as we bask in the warmth of the old ways, the ancient ways of the universe, and we move forward with the reasonably more recent old ways of the humans. And so thank you to those that bring that old knowledge forward. And I hope I can assist to transmit this knowledge forward with you and all of us together on the grand journey of life with Wave. Good day to you with your first issue of the Sermon from the Side of the Mount.
Looking for a non-smoking vegetarian.
Hello, darling.
Oh, hi.
What's that you're listening to?
It's nothing.
What's that you're writing?
Nothing.
A room available in Annerley. You've been listening to the accommodation notices, haven't you?
Have I?
You're leaving me, aren't you?
No.
You bastard.
Are you looking for somewhere to live? Well, are you, punk?
Looking for somewhere to live? Offering accommodation. Tune in to 4ZZZ accommodation notices Monday to Friday 10:30am and Saturdays 10am. If you miss these times, check the website 4ZZZFM.org.au. Accommodation notices Monday to Friday 10:30am and Saturdays at 10am.
Welcome back. You're on Eco Radio, 4ZZZ, the Environment and Peace show, longest running show ever in the world. Don't fact check
And
me.
the best.
And the best, also, and the best.
You can't forget that, Dave.
Well, there's one thing I never forget, and that is the Bushcare Roundup.
It's a Bushcare Roundup.
They be pulling out weeds,
And then they put in trees.
It's the Bushcare Roundup.
And the Bushcare Roundup is obviously the environmental roundup for all things happening this week for volunteering in and around the environment and peace. Starting with this Friday, the 6th, at 3 o'clock, you can go to the Kurilpa Common Farm Working Bee. That's at 250 Boundary Street in West End. And then on Saturday at 8:30, you can go to the Bushcare Working Bee at 26 Mount Gravatt Outlook Drive in Mount Gravatt. At 2 o'clock, you can go to the Nest Box Neighbours building backyard habitats. That's at Gould Adams Community Centre in Kingston. And at 2 o'clock as well, you can go to Bushcare at CREEC. That's CREEC, Burpengary. That's the CREEC Environmental Education Centre there in Burpengary.
Then on Sunday the 8th at 8am, we're the Friends of Bur'uda Hanlon Park Working Bee. That one is at Hanlon Park in Stones Corner. From 8 till 10am, there is the June Bushcare Working Bee at Brendan Road in Runcorn. Then from 3 till 5pm, we have the Yeronga Bushcare June Working Bee, and that one is at the intersection of the Brisbane Corso and Otaki Road in Yeronga. And then on Wednesday the 11th at 7:30am, there's Success Street Bushcare at the corner of Success Street and BT Road in Acacia Ridge.
Yeah, right on. So, Zach, which one are you going to choose to go to? What's looking like the best Zach opportunity to, I don't know, maybe see snakes or get into some amphibian fun?
I would like to do the Nest Box Neighbours, but I believe I'll be starting at 4, working at 4 on that Saturday, so that might put things a bit dicey time-wise.
Yeah.
But
it's always good to build some nest boxes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it would be nice if they weren't needed, but we've cut down all of the appropriate trees that had hollows for our furry and feathery friends.
we have.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Dave, did you know that this is something I've just been thinking about again recently.
Yeah.
That Australia used to be administer the territory of Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea wasn't an independent country until 1975.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Dutch or German.
So,
and then specifically with West Papua, it was the Americans gave it to Indonesia through a UN declaration or something like that.
Yeah, I'm talking about Eastern Papua.
Okay.
Papua New Guinea. That was under control by some parts of the Germans, but it was an Australian colony essentially for a solid chunk of time. It wasn't until 1975 it was an independent country completely.
Did you know that's the only other country with echidnas?
I think so.
Yeah, they've got I think it's a long-nosed echidna there.
Yeah.
Or long-beaked echidna or short-beaked echidna. They differentiate between beaks. What doesn't differentiate between beaks is the salient songs of sonic aliens. Today, Jordan is going to be talking to Civic and Bridge Dogs, so stay tuned for that. That's all of it from us here at Eco Radio. Stay tuned to 4ZZZ. It's great. We're going to go out with a song by King Crimson. King Crimson.
King Crimson.
My God.
I always choose songs at the end that I try to impress Jordan with.
Hopefully this impresses her.
Yeah.
You're listening to 4ZZZ. This has been Eco Radio.